Greg Argos is here to explain how beefing up a tax on red meat could actually help you.
Yeah, great way to help people. Make food more expensive and leave them with less money. Great idea.
Researchers in Great Britain say a red meat tax could save more than 53,000 lives a year in the United States alone.
No, it couldn't.
But if you like to grab a burger or an Italian hoagie for lunch, it could cost you. If enacted, the proposal could increase meat prices by more than 150%.
150% increase. So $4 worth of ground beef would end up costing $10. Yeah, that's not going to be at all bad for the poor or anything.
We'd have major problems. We charge right now like $11. That would probably go up to $15, $16 a steak.
And what do you think that'll do to mom and pop restaurants and the people they hire? For some reason, not having a job anymore doesn't seem that life-saving to me.
According to the study, the tax would save 220,000 lives a year worldwide and cut healthcare costs by $41 billion.
Yeah, destroying jobs doesn't seem like much of a health benefit either.
Researchers cite studies done by the World Health Organization which links red meat, especially the processed variety, to an increased risk of heart disease, cancer, stroke, and diabetes.
Yeah, the WHO does that crap. Remember, these yahoos think Wi-Fi can cause cancer. Remember when we covered that? Yeah, this is another one of those reports from IARC, the International Agency for Research on Cancer. But it isn't actually carcinogenic if you define that term to mean actually increases your risk of cancer. Going outside in the sun increases your risk of cancer to a far greater degree. In fact, this classification system says nothing whatsoever about the actual risk of getting cancer, so it's pretty much useless for this purpose. They put processed meat in Group 1, carcinogenic to humans, and red meat in Group 2A, probably carcinogenic to humans. What else is a carcinogen according to them? Well, the sun for one, also alcohol, leather, several kinds of nuts, and glass. Possibly carcinogenic are Wi-Fi, things stored in glass containers, and being a barber. They classified meat the way they did because of one type of cancer, colorectal. But even then, they only have a correlation, not causation. And even then, cutting out red meat doesn't actually decrease your risk. If you compare meat eaters to non-meat eaters, it only makes a difference of 0.8%, which might not even be enough to be a real effect. But let's assume it is. They claim this will save the lives of 53,000 Americans a year, but only 50,000 Americans die from colorectal cancer in a year. Even if they cut it 100%, it still won't be 53,000. But this 0.8%, that drops the number to 400. They want to do all of this just to save 400 lives. But this might not even be the case. In their study, which was published in The Lancet, they said that there is no experimental evidence whatsoever that red meat or processed meat are carcinogenic to animals. And the effect goes away entirely if they eat red meat and vegetables. So the problem may just be not getting enough vegetables, not eating red meat. Also, poor people rely a lot more on processed meat and red meat since that's what they can afford. And that poverty, not the meat itself, is what's skewing the statistics. Oh, and one more thing. Do you know how many compounds IARC says aren't carcinogenic? 1. Just 1. It's caprolactam, which is one of the components of nylon. Among all of the other substances that can be classified as carcinogenic or not, everything else in the universe is at least possibly carcinogenic according to them. As for heart disease, stroke, and diabetes, it's overeating that causes those. If you're 300 pounds overweight, you're gonna have these problems even if you got there by eating tons of vegetables. Meat is more calorie dense, so it's easier to become obese by eating meat, but that doesn't mean that meat itself causes them. And again, poor people tend to be obese to a greater degree than the rest of the population, again skewing the statistics. Other risk factors include smoking and alcohol use, other things you have in greater proportion among the poor. By the way, there are far more foodborne illnesses from vegetables than from meat. And thousands of people a year die from that. Amazing how they didn't figure that into their statistics.
Guys, I'm a meat lover. I would probably
Yeah.
pay double for a burger.
Yeah, because you've got a nice cushy job where you can afford it. Some people can't. Hey, this subject was requested by Hoplu, who's not only a patron, he's got a great channel in his own right, so go check it out. And as usual, please hit like and subscribe, and consider making a one-time donation using PayPal or crypto, or become a regular supporter on Patreon and get all sorts of benefits. See you next time!